This is Hunt Nebraska, the official podcast for insight into Nebraska's hunting and shooting sports community. Be sure to give us a follow on Facebook, our space for sharing stories, information, tips, and techniques. Now, Hunt Nebraska. And welcome into the Hunt Nebraska cabin, folks. We are excited. We are in the month of September. Lots of fun things happening. Hopefully we'll be able to start getting these out a little bit more regularly now that the season is upon us. Now, yeah, okay, those chasing squirrels have been doing that perhaps since August, but since the glorious 1st of September has come and gone, dove, archery deer, prairie grouse, teal season's going on in some parts of the state still while you're listening to us, but a lot more excitement just around the corner. You'll notice that we've got a colorful studio, cabin here at the Hunt Nebraska cabin. We got a colorful, we've got kind of a red and gold, almost like a cardinal and gold theme going on here. We're almost guys in cardinal and gals sporting more yellow than anything else. So that's kind of a mustard yellow, isn't it?
It's fall.
Yeah,
it's fall colors.
This are fall colors. That's what we're
fall.
going for.
Yep.
It's fall. But we got the Jeff Rollinson in for one more Hunt Nebraska podcast with his former Game and Parks hat on. We've got Rachel, our shooting sports and range coordinator for the state of Nebraska, in behind mission control, pushing the buttons. Just the first time you've done that.
It is. So
we just always assume the youngest person's in charge of the boards.
Isn't that what we've always done? It's like, oh yeah, you're the young, you're the millennial, you're doing the boards. Why can't you guys figure it out? Not so much.
And it works for the most part.
Something about ageism, something. Okay.
You think about the folks that we've just had them sit over there because they were younger than us. It really, overall, has worked out really well. Because pretty soon they're just like, they're showing us, they're pushing buttons that we didn't even know we bought, and making us.
I think they're adding buttons as we go. I think we've accumulated new buttons. You can't yank my headphones off my head, by the way. That's not going to work.
And so the game begins. We've got Julia Plugi from She Goes Outdoor fame in the cabin today. You got me, Hershy, as well. But this is one, like I said, we got to start making these a little bit more regular. And so I thought we'd do a quick one today since we're all sitting around with hunting and shooting sports on the brain, right?
Always.
So I thought, a good title for this one would be what? Firearms and Random Thoughts.
Oh, that's
and then
always a good title.
I thought about
always
the acronym for that, Firearms and Random Thoughts wouldn't work very well. So we're gonna go.
She just got it.
Julie's over here spelling it out for those not watching YouTube.
Well, firearms is one word, so you might be able to get away with it.
Well, the and though.
Oh,
But the and is silent.
Yeah,
And
the
so
is
it's
silent.
so silent.
It's just furt.
So it's a silent. and could be deadly.
Oh, no.
Wow, we have sunk to a low that I don't know. Thank you for bringing us there, Julia.
Just about
Roll
anything
with
goes at the cabin, but we're gonna get the fan blowing here soon. We've got a lot of things to cover. We just got done with the state fair. Lots of excitement. I think all four of us were there this year.
Yep.
Plinking away, flinging some arrows.
It was. Now, how would you guys describe the fair? What designated this fair or set this one apart from years past?
I was only there one day this year. That separated it from the past for me.
And I was only 2.
Yeah,
Really?
That was different.
How many days were you
Usually
there?
Julie and I
Well, I
are
was
there
there
anymore.
4 days.
4 days.
That's
which
why-
was, I haven't been there that many days before.
That might have been
That's
why
why
those
we were
two.
only there 1 and 2 days.
Thank you.
We appreciate
You're
it.
Well,
welcome.
take that back. I was there 3 because I was there at prep day.
Well, then I was there 3 days too. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we're
Wait
counting
a
that.
second.
Yeah. Well, if we're counting prep days, I was there 3 days this year.
Yeah, Rachel was there
I
like
where
2
you're
weeks
going.
then.
Yes, I like where you're going with that. That's right. We spent a
Rachel's-
lot of time there. I mean, it was rough.
Rachel was there for both of the prep days that we were all there for, and then you two went back to work on some
I
other
didn't go the
part.
prep
Oh, you did.
days.
She wasn't there for our 2-day prep day.
You weren't, were you?
No, she
But-
somehow got out of that. I don't. Yeah. So it's just us.
I was there for the
boy.
pre-prep days when we were scouting to make sure to know what we needed for the prep days.
Well, I
She
was there
wins
when
the
we
award.
built it, so I want to tell you right now, I trumped the rest of those
Okay.
prep days because that was about a couple months worth of work. So we'll go there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how next year's looks because a lot of arrows flung, a lot of pellets sent downrange, all that prep work kind of, especially on the shooting gallery where all that painting goes in and the sanding, and all of a sudden when you make something to be shot. It just, that it's not
gonna
going
get
to last
shot.
forever.
Yeah.
And so we got some targets to replace. We've got some paint to redo, but overall it looked pretty good.
It didn't turn out too bad, I'm sure.
Though I've been told that, and Rachel, you can fill us in, that the turkeys might not have survived the shooting gallery.
Yeah, we pulled the turkeys after the middle of the week because most of them didn't have their heads at that point. So we figured we would.
Those little kids are sharpshooters. I'll tell you right now, they go for the gusto when they get on that range. I also realized I heard and I saw that the pheasant didn't survive the archery range.
No.
And the reason I know that is because the head came back, but the rest of the body's still at the fair. So I put 2 and 2 together.
Well, I will say that after it lost its head, probably fewer arrows flung that direction because right behind that pheasant archery target is a little sign that says no trespassing or something like that. And with the game wardens not too far away, I think folks kind of looked at other targets. Plus, once you have a target with no head, it just kind of, what is it? It's a fence post. But that's right. I know the mule deer that's been there probably 3 or 4 seasons, absorbed thousands and thousands of arrows, is now probably ready for retirement as well. The jackalope, more of just a jackrabbit now. I think his antlers took a beating. But that's what we do. I mean, that's what we make this stuff for, so that we can put arrows in it and knock it over on the pellet gun range. Lots of fun. Red dots made an appearance.
They did
at the state fair.
That was a Rachel thing. That was a total Rachel thing.
I remember.
I found some that fit those air rifles and decided, hey, why don't we try it?
They were popular.
They were.
I was headed out, I think Thursday, as I was getting ready to go to the very first day of the fair on Friday. I think it was the 23rd. And she hands me this big Ziploc baggie with batteries and red dots and all that type of stuff. But overall, no pun intended, it was a hit.
It was. Well, we hit lots of targets with them.
You did.
Yeah. She took us into a new era, to be honest. I told you, I said, put your thumbprint on this range. And what does she do? She starts out with red dots. That was impressive.
So that was impressive. That was a neat move. So good times, but it also kind of ushers in, once we get past that, and here in Nebraska, if you are a Nebraskan, you probably know that our state fair ends on Labor Day every year. Has it ever been any different than that?
I don't recall it being any different than that.
Because I had that question many times from folks that while I was out there on Labor Day this year, that, hey, does it always end on Labor Day? It's like,
Pretty sure.
as far as I know, it has. Yeah. So that's good. So you right away after the state fair, fall is here, and so are all the exciting things taking place. All 3 of you last night involved with the rifle sight-in event. Tell us a little bit about that, Julia.
So we have a group of ladies that they are part of the Become an Outdoor Woman hunting cohort. And so as we get ready for deer rifle season and just hunting season in general, we invited them to go to the Isaac Walton Sporting Club, and they sighted in their rifles. They are ready.
Oh, they're ready
for deer season.
Yeah, we had. You talk about an all-star cast. Okay, now I'm going to set the stage for you. We got Julia Plugi.
Check.
Coordinating the show.
All right.
We have our very own shooting range, shooting sports coordinator, Rachel Carlson.
Check.
Boom, running the range.
Check.
We have former outdoor education extraordinaire, Kayla, running the range.
Check.
Kayla Gattigan running the range. Boom. I mean, it was an all-star cast.
So
Jeff
I heard
was
you
also
were there
there.
too. Were you just the card
And Jeff
that got
was there.
through the
I was
gate?
eating and drinking some pop, and I was there a couple of times, in and out, but it was impressive. And I mean, I watched, and I sat back and watched, and these guys, it was like they had been born on the range and they'd lived on the range all their lives. It was just they took these gals and they were shooting.
Rachel, Kayla, Julia, gals from the cohort. Mm-hmm. You were just kind of like the token curmudgeon.
I was the token curmudgeon. Every once in a while, I was like, nice. I don't think so. And that was all. That was my role. Firearms up in the air. And I only said that once, and they already had them up. I was just reminding them. So that's all I did. Just the old guys.
You did help me sight in my rifle. It was a little high.
The old guy helping the sighting in the rifle. No one wanted me as a mentor. So Julia was like, okay, you can come help me sight my rifle. And I was like going, oh, thanks. And she's got the coolest rifle. That is a 308 killing machine. I mean, that is just.
Is that the Ruger?
Oh, it's a Ruger 77 stainless. Oh, compact.
That is
the
nice.
Compact version.
Now, Rachel, tell us, and this is something that perhaps some of our listeners are going to, yep, completely agree with, know exactly what you're talking about. Maybe some of the newer listeners or those new to hunting are saying, well, tell us the confidence level once you know the ear rifle hits where you're aiming. I mean, talk about that as far as any shooting sports or even the hunting.
I mean, once you know your equipment, you know how to seat it in your shoulder, look through the scope, and you know that it's going to do the exact same thing each time, you have a lot less nervousness when you're going out in the field. And you just taking that process and that time to sight it in, you know your equipment that much better. You don't feel like you're fumbling for the buttons, for the bolt, for the safety. You know what you're doing. You have that muscle memory, that practice. That becomes part of you, and then you can pay attention to the other details.
There's just something nice that if you go hunting with the setup that you've practiced with, and like you said, you know it well, it's just like, oh, I got this.
Mm-hmm. I had the same feeling.
This, and that you can't overstate that.
You cannot overstate that. It's incredibly important. It's a confidence booster. I had the same feeling last Saturday at the Huskers opener football game when we finally had a quarterback. He can put that football wherever he wants to, and he did. And it's the same thing when you're sighted in. You can put that bullet wherever you want to. That's a confidence booster.
It's
because
huge.
you're out in the field, you know you can take care of business if the deer appears.
What I have always kind of related it to is you're going to practice with your firearm, right? Mm-hmm. And you put in the time ahead of season to practice with it, to get to know it, or when the moment of truth arrives, if that's your practice session, you're in trouble. Then all of a sudden I hope I can hit it. And now you're just kind of wishing and you're not, it's not something you've built up for. It's not that preparation meeting opportunity. It's opportunity meeting luck, just straight out luck that everything's still lined up like it was before. Because Julia, like you said, your rifle was sighted in, zeroed in, and then over time, it just the little bumps, the little jarring, the little change of whatever.
I mean, even when we cleaned it at the last cohort, may have
you
never know.
Something.
You got to clean it, and
it needed clean.
That can adjust some things.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether it's rifle for deer, muzzle loaders, shotguns for waterfowl or doves or anything like that. The more confidence you have in your setup, the more you're gonna you play like you practice.
Yep.
And so once that confidence is there, it's like, I can get this done. You're gonna make more shots when it comes up, and in your mind, I got this, rather than I hope this works.
Well, here's one of the
you're more confident in ethical shot too.
Amen.
Exactly, and one of the realizations one of the ladies in the cohort has had, and I was glad she brought this up. And she was, well, yeah, but now I need to shoot from my deer stand. I said, exactly. I said, this just gets your rifle sighted in. It's not the practice. This is just getting sighted in. You need to get out in the field. You need to take shots at 100 yards. If you hope to shoot a deer at 200 yards, and you need to take shots at 200 yards, you need to know, be confident what you can do at any range. And then when you start running out of confidence, meaning you're not hitting what you want, I said you've reached beyond your maximum effective range. Yeah, and you can see the light bulbs going on. It's like, yeah, this is just a starter. This is just a starter. This gets the gun ready. We got to get you ready still.
There you go.
So these gals were pumped. I had one gal told me she wanted to become a member of the Ikes where we were at last night.
She was really excited.
Yep.
And actually, that's the first time she had come to a cohort.
Was it really?
Yeah, I think the whole come in, sight in your rifles is what drew her in.
Very cool. And folks, what Julia has done here is we've got these gals that come to our Becoming an Outdoors Woman program. It's a weekend in October. It's full, by the way, for this year. But they come to this workshop and they learn all kinds of cool things. It's at Fort Robinson State Park. It's one of the best, coolest state parks in the Armada and out in western Nebraska. And we just have a great time with these gals. But there was a need for some of these gals to find other gals to do more, to get out and do more. So you kind of put them together.
Yeah, it's been fun, and this whole group has met each other through BOW and the cohort. And
very cool.
Yeah, like one last night that I could hardly get her to hold a .22 squirrel hunting 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Now she's holding these powerful rifles.
Yeah.
It's just like it gives you a warm fuzzy.
It does. I know. I'm so proud of her.
And the neat thing is, like you said, and it's an extension. I got to get it out. Where at that October weekend, you guys, if they're signed up for the right session, they get to choose 4 out of I don't know how many dozens of different things
400,
going on.
I don't know.
You might be able to shoot rifles and build up to a deer hunting rifle like a 243, but you're shooting it at 30 yards?
Yeah.
And most deer here in Nebraska during that November firearm season or the late January season when rifles are a legal method of take, 30 yards is probably not a common distance to take a deer with a rifle.
Closer than you might think usually. Most people, I got a sight in for 200 or 300 yards, and the average deer is probably shot between 75 and 125 yards.
Especially here in eastern Nebraska, right?
You get out in the sandhills, you can stretch that as far as you're capable. But I mean,
so that October weekend, they might get a chance to excuse me, they might get a chance to feel what the rifle, sounds like, feels like, that. But at 30 yards, hey, you want to do something a little bit more for deer season. So you guys were sighting them in at what? 30, 75, 100 yards. So now they know exactly what that's going to do and what they already know the feel perhaps, but they need to know, all right, it's ready to go. That part of the equation is solved, and now we go to the next one. That's right.
The one gal said, can we sight them in at 300 or 500 yards? And I was like going, no. I was impressed that she wanted to do that.
I still feel the blow from her and hear her rifle.
She had a rifle that, we couldn't afford, but it was one of those long 28-inch barrel, 300 Win Mag with a big muzzle brake on it.
Yeah, that muzzle brake was...
What'd you say? It was a 300 Winchester Magnum?
Yeah. She said, I have that or a 22-250. I'm like, okay. So we went with the 300 Win Mag, but I'll tell you right now, when she shot that, not only on the 100-yard range, but the guys on the pistol range, on the 300-yard range, the trap range, they all knew that gun was. It reverberated.
Right there's a good reason to folks to realize that the answer to how many guns do you need? One more.
Always one more.
Because the 22-250 is illegal. Means it takes, but it's really on the light side. Yep. The 300 for a Nebraska deer, whether it's whitetail, mule deer, doesn't matter how many points or antlers or what it has, little on the big side. And so you always need kind of that in between.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, like Julia's rifle, the 308 Winchester, I don't know that there was ever made a more perfect cartridge for deer hunting and elk hunting in the United States than the 308, 30-06, that 30 caliber group of cartridges. That to me is always where I always push people toward. If they can handle it, I'd push them toward that. But 300 Win Mag, and that gal handled it, so there was no issues there.
That was good.
She had the perfect rifle.
She didn't jump or anything. I'm like,
yeah, she was shooting groups and handled it just fine. And I think we were 20, 30 rounds into that thing, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, my shoulder would have gave out long ago. And she's like, one more. I'm like, okay, yeah.
Some folks love that. Yeah. All right, so I want to move on to something that we're all kind of focusing on this week, and by the time we get this edited and out the door, because of this event, it'll have come and gone, but we're going to celebrate it for the rest of the year, right? 50 years of hunter education in Nebraska. And by that, we mean, well, the mandatory side, right, Jeff?
Yep. It's 1974. The legislature made it mandatory and adopted in Nebraska that everybody would have to have hunter education at a certain age. It's gone through a lot of reverberations, but it has been mandatory in some sense since 1974. And it's just a milestone, huge milestone for the state of Nebraska. If any program out there taught state fish and wildlife agencies how to do education, it was hunter education. And we put those programs together with volunteers across the state, and it has been excellence.
Well, what's really cool, too, is, like you said, volunteer-driven. You can see the impacts of it and the safety record of hunting from the time it was mandated and then created to now, for sure. And then it was so successful that we're also celebrating 30 years of bow hunter education here in the state of Nebraska. Yes. But a lot of folks kind of, before it was mandatory on either side, there were already folks stepping up and saying, hey, I want to help make sure that this next group of hunters, whether they hunt with firearm or archery, know how to do it safely, and act responsibly out there and all that good stuff. So some of them are doing it before it was mandatory. And I just find this is really cool. I mean, this is just screams out loud how much folks are behind this, is we're celebrating 50 years of hunter education here in the state of Nebraska, and at this event,
five individuals who were there at the beginning and before the beginning.
That were rewarding for 50 years of teaching hunter education, holding classes, conducting the courses, doing all the paperwork, which is, I know none of us hunters, even us, most of us biologists, don't get into the field or area because we love doing paperwork, but it is part of it because that means money back into the state of Nebraska for conservation and hunter education. But 5 individuals from the very get-go said, yep, count me in, and they've been there every year since. And I'm going to say a name, and Jeff's really good at this. I mean, he can tell you where these folks are from. Julia, I know you're pretty good at this too. You know your geography. Folks, if you haven't met Julia Plugi, you're probably related to her somehow. I think that's what it was.
Not related. We just know each other.
Since I've known you, everywhere we go, they're either you've worked with them, they know you, showed them cattle with you, or they're related to you somehow.
There's not a county fair where somebody doesn't know Julia Plugi. Let me tell you right
now. Exactly.
Yeah, I can't argue that.
And this is kind of cool. We've got some spread out across the state.
Yep.
Omaha is
Joe Bober. Now, Joe Bober has been involved, like the rest of these guys, 50 years, and he's been a master instructor in the program for many, many years, and to Omaha, Nebraska, and just always there helping us develop ideas, put together and coordinate instructor trainings and meetings. He's helping to coordinate the celebration that we had on the 7th at Mahoney State Park. He helped with that. He's just one of those guys that shows up and he's good.
And Rachel, anytime I hear Joe Bober's name, I immediately get hungry.
Me too.
And I am ready to go because that guy knows food.
He brings.
Oh my goodness.
He caters in. And when he does, he and the Knights of Columbus team there in Omaha, you're going to walk away full and satisfied. There's no question about that. And one thing about Joe, and again, I don't know all these gentlemen like I know Joe. Joe and I have been friends for a lot of years. I know these gentlemen, all of them. But, Joe's one of those guys, when we made changes to the Hunter Ed program 20 years ago, and especially with Bow Hunter Ed came on in 93 and whatnot, we started needing classes bad. We started needing we had a lot of kids waiting to get in. And Joe pioneered some of those 50, 75, 100 kid classes, and he would coordinate big teams of instructors, and he'd put together these monster classes, and you'd think, oh, that's just too many. And you go sit in one of those things, it was a good class. I mean, he knows how to teach.
They knew how to break it down, and had a group of people that they did well. This next one from Royal, Nebraska. Now, folks, you're going to have to get out the map quest and figure out where Royal is. But the best way I can describe it, and I brought it up on my phone again, is if you draw a line northwest out of Norfolk, and then Norfolk. I looked at it. From Norfolk. My goodness, we'll catch that in a minute. I know how to pronounce it. And northwest out of Norfolk, and then a line straight south out of Valentine, Nebraska, or Niobrara. Where those two meet is pretty darn close to Royal, Nebraska. And we've got Dennis Bridge up there that's been doing it for 50 years.
Good guy.
Looking forward to seeing Dennis again at the events this fall, celebrating 50 years. Then we have a team of brothers.
The Zellers.
Yeah, in Ravenna, Nebraska. That have been doing it for 50 years as well. I got to assume they've worked together. I haven't been to one of their classes, but
I know Kent introduced and taught it in his ag education classes.
Oh,
he was an ag teacher when I was going through the program
cool.
As a student. And so, a lot of high school students that went through Ravenna.
That's awesome. We've got some good ones across the state, some ag teachers that have made it part of their conservation curriculum, and that's just smart. I mean, hey, you're doing something that some of them are going to want to have anyway. You're doing something that some of them are going to need to have, and they just don't know it yet. And then you're exposing some of those others that this is an opportunity. Maybe I can do this. This is pretty cool. And there's a lot of things.
Hunter education has always been a good idea.
Well, and that's why, folks, we don't officially call it hunter safety anymore, right? Yep, we teach how to be safe and be responsible, but there's so much more conservation concepts, funding models, and how conservation is funded through excise taxes. There's a lot of different things in there that you can learn. So it's really become a curriculum unto its own. And then in beautiful Alma, Nebraska, and I hope to get down there and hit some fishing before the white bass wiper bite ends. Galen Steele.
Another good guy. Oh, they're all great guys. I mean, this is a all-star class right here. And again, guys that have been with us since the very beginning, some just slightly before the very beginning, and have had a passion for this program. 50 years. That's a long time. These guys, they got to teach, at least every other year to maintain their active certification. So these guys, 50 years, and most of these guys, I'll guarantee you, these guys have taught probably multiple classes every year. Yeah. This is the all-star group.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And we know that there's several right behind him with 40-plus years of service, and that'll hit that 50 mark if everything goes as planned. So that's really cool to see. Now, on the bow hunter side, we do know that we've got one gentleman that has been
out of Lincoln.
With the program since the very beginning and probably taught it even before it was mandated, and part of the Nebraska Bow Hunters Association, one of our master instructors as well. Like you said, out of Lincoln, out of the capital city.
Steve Wojciechowski, another great guy.
Wojciechowski.
Another great guy. He's a mentor in your mentoring program. Been a mentor for many, many years.
Yep.
And he's just one of those guys, smart as can be, his heart of gold, loves giving back to kids, loves getting kids involved in bow hunting. He helps out at expos and outdoor discovery programs and
the
camps.
Archer in the School State Tournament.
Archer in the School State Tournament program. He's just another one of those, they're all peaches. This is another peach of a guy.
So sure. That's going to be fun. We tip the fedora to all those instructors, guys and gals out there making it happen, because we go through thousands of students each year, and this fall, in fact, the next several weeks, about next month and a half, September through October, are some of the busiest times for these individuals to be scheduling courses, holding hunt safe sessions, doing the sit-down traditional classes to meet the demand and the need leading into some of the most popular of our hunting seasons that happen in October, November. And so, boy, we couldn't do it without you. And things have changed over time, right?
It's evolved many times, but so has our kids. You know, the way they learn has changed over time. And no better than have Julia here, a former teacher, master's degree in curriculum development. She's been involved in kids learning and in adapting to kids learning, and it's changed quite a bit, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Just even from the learning ability of just to read it, remember it, and that's how they retain it. That's just not the way you teach anymore. They got to have some hands-on demonstrations. They got to recall it. They got to get out in the field. They got to have some practice. Well, technology.
Yeah,
technology's
been huge.
Think about the films we were showing, growing up in school and hunter education. Great example. Jeff, you and I started, and we went through Hunter Ed when we did the old reel-to-reel
we had
projector.
To put the reels together.
and some of those
still
went
hear those
30,
reels clicking
40.
as they're running out.
I think there was one Hunter Ed film that made the switch from reel-to-reel to VHS, maybe even to DVD when we needed to go that route, that was close to an hour in length. Now, if you think of a video, you're thinking what, Rachel?
3 to 5 minutes.
3 to 5 minutes, and we've had to adapt to that, and in school as well. And
you think about shorter every day.
Yeah, you think about the pandemic.
So is my attention span. It's okay.
The ability to have meetings and do some online teachings through things like Zoom and Google Meets and all that type of stuff, a lot more common. They can do face-to-face, and you don't have to travel too far away. It mandated during the pandemic that our deer check stations, our physical check stations, had to be put on hold for a little while, and actually proved that we can do telecheck throughout the entire deer season. In fact, this fall, folks, you've got the option of, during the rifle firearms season for deer, you can telecheck it, just like archers outside of that season. Muzzleloaders have been doing it for several years, or you can take it to one of the few physical check stations, which there will still be a few, and it probably will be moving forward just a little bit at times. But definitely for those folks that were having to travel almost 2 hours one way to get to the check station, I think they're going to say, wow, thank you.
Makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that as it's going. But I wanted to focus in. A lot of change in the last 50 years, but let's focus in a little closer, last 25. Last 25 years of change. And we won't just keep it on hunter education. Let's go hunting as a whole, because, folks, this might be the last time that Jeff gets to wear the Game and Parks hat in the Hunt Nebraska cabin. You're going on to something different here.
Going on to something different, after 25, 26
Similar,
years at Game and Parks. Being able to help lead our Hunter Ed, Hunter Outreach, shooting sports, range development programs and whatnot. And I've loved every minute of it. I've had an opportunity to take on a vice president role with the National Archer in the Schools program, which is a program you and I have been involved. We've all been involved with this program, but Hershy and I have been involved at a fairly big level, and been able to sit on the national board for that organization for about probably 15 years now, and I love the organization, love what it does for kids, love what it accomplishes for conservation, and so now I'll be able to impact that in a big way, and I'm really looking forward to it. Going to miss a lot of this stuff, but and especially as we move into celebrating 50 years of hunter education, that's kind of a big deal for all of us. I mean, that's kind of a.
And you're going to make it through that. You did make it through that.
I'm here for the whole. I was here through the whole celebration, and God, we had fun, and now I've moved on.
Were you here for the 25th year of
Hunter
Ed?
For the 25th year of Hunter Ed.
I remember there being a celebration, Rachel, at 40 years.
Yep.
And we had a belt buckle.
Yep, in 30 years. And yeah, there's been milestones, but honestly, this is the biggest. Obviously, it is the biggest milestone, but it's huge. And the other day, last week, everybody had kind of gone home, and I was sitting. It was like a Friday, if I recall, Thursday or Friday night, and I was sitting at my desk, and it was about 6:30 or so, and I was packing some stuff up, and I pulled out the recent version of Nebraska Land magazine, the August issue. August-September issue, and open it up because Eric Fowler, one of the best. I mean, he's one of our photographers and one of our writers for Nebraska Land magazine, did a really nice article on hunter education, 50 years. And it was, I felt sorry for him. It's a challenge because there's so many people and so many things you could leave in, leave out. I mean, there's 100 directions you could go. But I sat there reading that article, and I brought tears to my eyes because I thought, you think about 50 years, all the people, but larger than life, all the people that have gone through this agency, all the people who have gone through Nebraska as volunteers who have been part of this family. Yeah, and many of them have passed. Many of them are still here. But I was like, man, there's a lot in that 50 years. This article doesn't, it couldn't possibly tell the whole story. And it just couldn't. But it did a good job at telling us a little bit about the story.
So what is, in the 25 years you've been involved with Nebraska Hunter Education as part of the agency staff, biggest change in that time to hunter education?
The biggest change is resulting.
And you get one.
Kids.
You get one.
It's the kids.
Julia's already looking at the clock.
It's the kids, and I'm done. So it's the kids, and which results in changes. Technology has ushered in quite a bit, but technology didn't make the kids. The kids, the learning styles had changed. The kids started learning very differently because certainly opportunities, technology, COVID was a monster of a change for the entire country and how we interact, communicate, and learn. But long before COVID, learning styles were changing in school. Julia knows more about that than I do, but kids were learning remotely. Kids were learning more online. Heck, you could get master's degrees online. It was just, it came in fast. And so the biggest change was going from a mandatory 10-hour class where you sat in a classroom with an instructor, 25 other kids like yourself, just raring to get out in the field to go hunting, and learning and taking in the manual and all the information that hunter education provides, and taking the test and walking out of that 4-day class with your card and your sticker and all in your patch, your little sew-on patch and whatnot. Today, where we still have the 8-hour now. It's an 8-hour class that instructors teach all across the state, but we also have an online version for adults 16 and over, and we have an online with a Hunt Safe session, which is a small 2-hour course that you go online, take the class, and you come to a Hunt Safe session with a certified instructor and learn the highlights of the safety elements. The hunter education, as you said, Hershey, has just changed tremendously. It used to be called safety, now it's called hunter education, has been for many years, cover a lot of ground, but we felt like the most important thing was to make sure that they understand the safety elements. And so, we don't, I've always joked, I say, I don't know that it's important that a kid knows who Hershy was in bow hunter education, but it's darn sure important that they know when it's appropriate to knock an arrow with a razor broadhead on it or not, right? Or how to get in and out of a tree stand where they're likely going to be hunting. And so that Hunt Safe session has done. Am I past time? Is that the
No, I keep getting messages.
So that Hunt Safe session has done that. It's unique. I don't know of any state in the country that has done that. And I've talked to a lot of coordinators over the last 5, 6, 7 years who have said, how did you do that? That sounds like something we got to do. But getting it passed in their states was very difficult. But in Nebraska, we didn't. We've always had a close-knit relationship with our instructors. We've had meetings and conferences every year to every other year. And this is something we had talked about in Nebraska for many years. And so when we started doing it, our instructors were, I wouldn't say all of them were behind it, but we had a large contingency of instructors like, yeah, that makes sense. We're going this direction. They know how their kids, their grandkids are learning in school. So we had quite a bit of our contingency behind it. And it's worked really well. We've had real good success. Our, hunter education is one of those few education programs in any agency or organization where hardcore metrics. I mean, you either have, a higher degree of safety and you maintain that in the field, or you don't. And we measure that every year. And the metrics for hunter ed have always been astounding. We went from, 30-some incidents in the field per year down to, if we hear of 2 or 3 or 4, we're like, man, that's shocking. We don't get many, and they're all tragedies. It doesn't matter how big or small they are. We don't want to see any, but it's a far cry better than 30 plus that were back in the 60s and 70s.
There you go. And part of it is, the shooting sports opportunities that folks have nowadays, I think, getting some more ranges out there, getting to know how to safely use those ranges, what you guys were doing last night as well. I think there's some more thought put behind some of that nowadays than there used to be, where you just, all right, we'll pin something up against this tree on this hillside and hope things work out. But
and one thing we've learned over the years that, Hershey, when you and I went through it, there's almost a good chance that, we're kind of old at this stage of the game. We're older.
Kind of.
And there was a chance when we took Hunter Ed, we probably were going to go hunting the next day. We might have gone hunting with a friend or a brother. And that was the era we were raised in, right? We were pretty connected to the outdoors. We did these things a lot. It wasn't like, Hunter Ed was our first exposure. But, we see a lot more today. These kids it kind of is a lot of times their first exposure, yet they're not likely to get out of Hunter Ed and then just head out of the field hunting by themselves. No. They're going out with mom or dad or an uncle or a mentor or somebody who knows what they're doing, because they're going to learn a little more hands-on than that.
Well, and Julie, you probably see it in some of your kids. When you did go hunting, I mean, the only place you saw other people hunt was whether you got to tag along or the first time you went. Nowadays, man, you jump on your phone, your computer, get on YouTube, you do all sorts of different things. You can see other people doing it long before you even get out there that first time. And you learn, whether or not you realize it, you're watching it for entertainment, you're watching it for picking up little tricks or tips or whatever. You're learning somehow in there, and so they have a little bit more idea, I think, at times, rather than getting tossed right into the mix out there. So good stuff. One more question for you, Jeff.
Yeah.
In the world of hunting, what has changed the most in the 25 years?
I think you just nailed it. I think social media and the access to information, the access to, everybody harvests a big deer, everybody sees it, whereas before your sphere of influence was small. Today, your sphere of influence is magnified by 1 million. I mean, some people like Julia have thousands of followers, right? And so it just depends on who you are, and whatnot. But
it's like, really? What Julia are you following?
Every county fair. But anyway, so I think that's been a huge change in hunting, and good and bad. And I think that I feel sorry for some of our younger hunters today, that if all they see is online, some of the, not so positive images, are those their role models? Is that who they're learning from? And then the positive ones, you hope they're seeing those, because there's way more positive than negative. I mean, hunting has survived all these years because so many people have cared for so long. That was a quote out of a Nebraska Line article years and years ago in the 70s, and it's so true, because that's why hunting has survived. Yeah, we've got those dipsticks out there that do bad things, poachers, the stealing from all of us. Wildlife in the United States belongs to all of us. Yeah, and that's disappointing. And we've had some big busts here in Nebraska over the years where law enforcement has done an incredible job. We got great guys and gals on this law enforcement team. Their heart and soul is into this. But the best is out there, and you don't hear about them, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's where I'm seeing the change. Hopefully you see the change more, where kids are hearing about the best of what hunting has to offer, because the best is pretty darn good. Mm-hmm. And they're good men and women out there that are just representing this model of conservation that's been so successful. I say still in this experimental stage, but been so darn successful across the country, because so many people are doing such a good job of doing the right thing.
There you go. Things are definitely changing. I've seen the first combines rolling through fields already here in Nebraska, and they're not cutting silage, shockingly enough.
Too dry. It's dried out.
You didn't cut silage?
Oh yeah, we did 3 weeks.
We should be dove hunting out at their place.
Gosh, probably.
You're not the first to ask.
I know. Have the doves been flying? I haven't asked yet. Are the doves flying pretty good out there?
I have not drove by that field.
I just got to know.
Scouting. Scouting. It's called scouting, Julia.
Scouting report.
Yeah. But no, I think what's interesting now, Rachel, is as the crop fields come out, all of a sudden the little pop-up blinds, bloop, 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 or the blinds made out of trailers that travel start showing up out there. But there's a lot of change, so it's neat seeing that things like hunter education have adapted to some of those changes, got in front of them, keeping that message, that vital message of responsibility and safety in front of a whole new generation, and will continue to do so. So we're going to have to put a fork in it right there, folks. We meant this one to be a short one. It's already gone a few minutes over Julia's time schedule, but be sure to give us a thumbs up or subscribe, whether you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us on whatever platform it might be. But until next time, we'll see you outdoors.
Hunt Nebraska, brought to you by your Nebraska Game and Parks Commission.